Hey guys, Andy N. Spoken Mabel, my friend, Eddie Lickle. Straight over to Eddie now. He's going to do a variety of pieces for us. Should we tell him, Eddie, what you're doing, or make him give people a surprise?
Well, I'll start off with a little bit of spoken word. I won't elaborate further.
Take it away, mate. Sorry, mate. I'm muting myself.
All good, all good. Let's go. This piece is called Yes Man, and it's all about the idea of saying yes too often and not having enough self care for yourself, which we all need. I've got a reputation. They call me the Yes Man. Born with that title, Mr. Always Does His Best Man. Give 100%, maybe more, but never less than. Well, I've got some shit to say. I need to get it off this chest. Damn. I never wanted to be less than. Just a lesson in obsession to try and be the best am. 13 in the mirror and a pop on a flex am. Barely seeing pecs, so I'm not that impressed. I'm more perplexed. I'm seeing men in magazines and they're flexing in their vests. And there's prepubescent me and he's looking to digest what the hell it means to go out and dress. Culture shows the seams of this body, I confess. So I decided I'd shape it and I'll push pull that fat and I begin to grate it. Calories count, can I make it? Catch reflections until I don't hate it. And in the schoolyard, it starts to praise me. Hey, look, is that young lad with the six-pack? Whispers name me. But with grades still low, there were those who shame me, government-inspired fears about those who pay me. But honestly, I never really felt like that learner type. I was always that grinder till I earned it type. I was that typed out typer till I earned my stripes. And I got into uni to learn the hype. So go on, call me the yes man. Mr. Does his very, very best man. Mr. Going to impress man. Mr. Never ever less than. So I moved away and I met uni teens with a purpose. To not live at home, but their cares was get grades, maybe praise, not a mortgage, graduate, get a job with a circus. And a where culture preached, hey Ed, think of life as a whole, no distractions. Mate, I'm ADHD, I think in fractions. I pave the way to those distracted actions. I am melody, I'm constant traction, lad. I've got a CV so schizophrenic that it's main attraction. So don't you call me that yes man, because I don't need that stress, man. But you see, I'll be still picking up your reps and the best. I'm passing all your tests, not impressed. Time to rest, man. Cheers.
Fantastic. Oh, yeah. Really, really good stuff, that. I liked the energy in that piece, and you covered an awful lot of ground on that piece as well. So I can well imagine that's gone down really, really well. And the open mic circuit you've read there definitely make excellent stuff indeed. Was
Thanks,
that
love.
quite an easy piece to write, or did it take a lot of fiddling round, as I would say sometimes?
Yeah, it's one of these things where with spoken word, often that has proven to be the case, is I will randomly at one point find a introduction or a verse that I really love. So in my notepad, I will write like about 4 lines, just have one verse there, one stanza, and that will stew in my brain for weeks. And then one day it will always come out at once. It's generally how the spoken word has gone. It's one good line, 4 good lines, and then weeks down the path, it all just bursts out one night.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that one, mate. I understand you completely. That's fantastic stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
my pet saying you don't know this yet. Less of me, more of you. Back to you, mate, for your piece number two.
Lovely. Okay, so this is another spoken word piece. It's called Spitfire, and this is reflective and in honor of my brother Jay Little. We grew up together in kinship, and this is about that. There's purpose to those days that you lived with. Dribbling giggles, killing syllables, out mouths, just saying shit. Shout your memoirs, kids. Build that foundation. There's a home for you, and all you need is patience. We were 13 and lived in this rat of a room. Us two boys, riddling rattlers, were scrapping till noon. No telly, no girls, just sessing into those tunes, those adolescent tales that rose with the moon. And it was before those Facebook glazed days. Before pubescent status updates scripted crazed ways. We spat tactics, painting futures from the days made. Then the art is rebellion against the path paid. And it was scary to talk back, speaking truth when exposed to life's rat traps. In your lanes, boys, no asking for cash backs, just foster kids scrapped for someone else's setbacks. And you believe that line. Trauma is a lie that you've committed a crime, but there's children out there still whispering rhymes. Cast away daydreamers run when it's time. So we opened our ears and chose the banter. Became the bar side booze hooligans who were proven to ooze mantras. Because if life's taught me lessons, mate, this spitfire and laughter, I use love to paint words, make them dance ever after. We escaped that city made of anger and spit, paved new streets with the dust from syllables slick. Not icons, just kids who refused to submit, carving this belt of a tale through pure willing grit. Cheers.
Oh wow. That's quite a different change in piece you're a piece. That was a good choice, that one, Eddie, I think, because I think you do little sets like this. It's always good in it. Do you think so? To share different voices you've got there. And that
Yeah,
was,
absolutely.
yeah, very, very
Mm,
different piece. I really liked it. It felt more personal as well, actually, doesn't you?
yeah, that one's more personal in itself, where spoken word often is like quite fun for me, where I like to play with language, and the more vulnerable side of it in stories is obviously with that background. And I find that balancing the audience works well. You know, you want at least one giggle here and there if you're doing like a 15-minute set, and then get them comfortable, and then you can hit them with the hard stuff.
Oh God, yeah. Join the club. I get it completely with that one. Always a mixture of depressive stuff and the funny stuff. Yeah, sometimes in the same piece if you can manage that as well. So I'm always a believer.
Yeah, that's the ideal. That's the goal.
Brilliant stuff, mate. Okay, now as Monty Python says, and now for something completely different. Back to
Yeah.
you, mate, man. People wondering, this is not a spoken word piece. People on the video today, they can see Eddie now flicking round in the book. So, what's he reading here, mate?
So, hello. Today I'm going to be reading one of my published non-fiction short stories, and it's about my experience living in Japan. And at this point, things had gotten pretty boring for me, and I was looking for an outlet. And one day this happened. It's called A Mind Full of Sake. Delirious, I lowered my Turtle Beach headphones to my shoulders, cupping my ear to hear what he'd said. What? Japanese? Don't know why I expected anything else. Getting closer, I noticed his liver spots first, a constellation dotting from chin to forehead, then his gummy grin pulled me in with a handshake. Eh, America? His tongue clicked, flicking out of his mouth on the re. Igarasu, I defended a little too quickly, not because I didn't like Americans, but I've become borderline patriotic since leaving England. Laughing in what I guessed was an imitation of Prince Philip, he launched into speech. And even though I couldn't tell what he was saying, it somehow felt like he was starting from the middle of the story he was telling himself. America? Namu? He asked, cutting his sentence dead with a spasm of the neck. Um, After 6 months of teaching I can and warning countless boys from saying I fuck, I needed a drink. First strap, then second, he undid his gardening gloves before wiping his forehead and placing them on the edge of a plant pot. His home was one story like others in the area, but wooden pillars supported the structure rather than steel beams. A bonsai stood in front of his house, reaching out into the street, picturesque but with a studied, almost anime aesthetic, nature living hand in hand with its neighbors. I hadn't seen an untamed garden in months, but this was no exception, and my attention waned. Then the old Japanese man ushered me into his house, flicking his tongue like he was trying to catch flies, and the sun was blocked out when the door shut behind me. Dark brown walls displayed a gallery of photos that seemed to lead to the kitchen, black and white frames of a wedding, slowly replaced with a boy in faded colour. I followed him into the kitchen, separated from the living room by a paper partition, the only light filtering through from a quiet TV on the other side. Hard to see the old man as his outline ran in the cupboard. He eventually smashed the glass and the partition door opened. It was then that she saw me. I've yet to hear a woman scream so loud, and at first I thought it was directed at me, but by the time my ears had cleared, I learned her husband's name as she twatted them over the head with a slipper. Toru! Maybe this isn't the first time he's brought someone home, I thought, as Toru defended himself against the tiny old lady with the kitchen brush. Baka, she grumbled, shunning him with a wave of an arm as she retreated back to the television, closing her paper wall behind her. I just stood there, politely smiling the whole time as I thought about making an exit, but he flashed a smirk. Pointing towards the front door, he led me back through the hall. Beer? Beer? Nodding, he confirmed the day wasn't over as the sun greeted us outside. Disappearing for a minute, Toru returned with a paint chip bike from beside his house. Okay, he said. Okay, I replied, trying to figure out what was going on. But by the time he leaned the bike onto me, he was off, shouting as he ran. And it took a few seconds to decide, you know what? Screw it. I got my feet on the pedals and I gave chase. Following him through a web of neat roads, he weaved from side to side, waving reassurance to his retired neighbours as preparation for what they'd see next. A young British man pedaling in a tank top and suit pants, covered in tattoos, who'd more than likely taught one of their grandchildren. I was what my company called a super sub for every elementary school in Ibarakishi, and the sum of those commutes could be seen scarred into the bags of my eyes. Coming to a stop, Toru swallowed, watching his own sweat hit the ground as he steadied his hands on his knees. I realized I knew the family mart he had taken us to. Opposite was Higashi Elementary, the school I'd been teaching in only 2 hours earlier. Toru, I scrambled, but he'd marched ahead with his daydreams of beer. Parking the bike next to the store, two kids saw me, their identical yellow hats making them look like tiny builders. Sensei? Shirt, blazer, and tie, a moist bundle at the bottom of my rucksack were beyond recovery. But the dress code was underlined in my contract. Keep all tattoos covered. Sidestepping the aisles, I searched for Toru like we were starring in a Japanese crime drama, but instead of robbing the place, we were avoiding children so that I could get pissed in front of the school that employed me. Eventually, I found him holding 4 beers and a bottle of sake by the fridges. Tired enough to ignore all reason, I followed him to the till. Famichiki, Toru said, putting the alcohol on the counter. The server, pimpled with a mess of black hair, repeatedly caught himself from looking up at us, an odd pairing he didn't expect to see as he bagged the drinks and a box of fried chicken. Thank you, I said, simply to watch the cashier smirk, a small blush giving a deeper shade to his acne. Walking to the bench outside, we sat opposite the school. The building was a creamy white, and the setting sun still illuminated half of the front wall. I searched the windows for silhouettes, but the classrooms appeared dark. No kids to be seen. It's a beautiful day, I commented, taking 2 beers from my bag and handing one to Toru. Nodding, he fingered open the tab, taking a greedy swig in a way that reminded me of someone that I used to call Dad. The liquid caused the loose skin of his throat to wobble like a wave. Wishy, delicious, he said. Kanpai, cheers. I raised my can, and with a laugh, we clinked tins. I tried to use Google Translate as we drank our beers, but Toru waved away my attempts to communicate with a smack of his tongue against the roof of his mouth. It was the school he watched, scanning the rooms that were full earlier, clicking his tongue like he was trying to echolocate someone lost in the building. The beer was good, the chicken even better. Toru touched none of the food, instead starting on the sake, and I realized how hungry I was. Whatever anxiety I had disappeared with the alcohol, and sucking clean the final chicken bone, licking the chicken from my fingers, I listened as Toru started to talk. Slowly at first, hands outstretched, half grasping, like he was trying to pick the words from mid-air, he found his rhythm. Sentences so unfamiliar to my ear that they sounded like spells. I'd fill quiet moments with empty words because silence makes me paranoid. Yet the more he spoke, the easier it felt just to exist there, drunk on the idea of what he might be telling me, and to allow the access of everyone I'd ever met to fill my senses. Their noise, their smell, their crowding, their ability to fill up too much space. With the sun almost set, Toru started to cry. Sumimasen, he sniffed, pinching his eyes as he rose to his feet. The alcohol rushed red through his cheeks, animating an embarrassment I'm sure he felt. As he was about to leave, the realization that Toru had already become a memory was enough for my eyes to glaze over. I watched him run, a sloppy stride which had his leg over the bike and on the pedal by the time that I struggled together with the leftover chicken bones. Arigato, I shouted, feeling silly but happy to give weight to my dramatics, waving at him with the bottle of sake he'd abandoned. Sayo, thank you, he said in English, one shoe on the ground, head facing west, like an echo from the other side of the world in a city that's always raining. Preparing to say something else, mouth paused open and a low cry grumbling in his throat, he swallowed, pedaling his bike away until it disappeared between the maze of roads. Night crept in warm, a row of crows cawing on the school gate a hint that maybe I should go home. Instead, I took the bottle to a park, drinking on a swing designed for a child, calling friends in England to talk about Toru. What we'd done, debating the content of his tear-inducing monologue, which by midnight had inspired in us countless fantasies of who he was: a drunk, a spy, a romantic, an endless thread of possibilities that I could forever retell in cafes, train stations, and on podcasts. With a belly full of chicken and a mind full of what that day had been, I stumbled to my apartment, the scenery coming back into focus. Cheers.
Wow. Wow. Blimey. Excellent stuff, that man. I really felt I got to know that main character you were talking about in that then. I got a
Guys, man, thank you very much.
wow. It's like it felt like then, like it was like it was a great example that was a piece where two cultures are completely
Mm.
different, but they come to an understanding. Not necessarily
Mm.
language, in your case, beer. And that's the common
Yeah, yeah.
the
The
common
common
aspect.
denominator of communication.
Yeah, it's a perfect way of doing it. Oh, fantastic, mate. Oh,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that
I
quite a
found.
long? Sorry, go on, mate. Pardon me. Go on.
Yeah,
I
I
was going to say to
found
you, go
that
on.
was a few years ago. Is that what you were going to say? It was a long time ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, so a few years ago, and I found, like I mentioned earlier, the isolating aspect of, I guess, being there for a few months where I am adapting. I found myself craving just something random, because even people don't shout there. So it's kind of like a understimulation and you're looking for dopamine. I just found myself in this very weird situation with this man called Toru where there's no communication whatsoever, but we somehow got on through this journey, which ended up being quite emotional by the end of it. But it snapped me back into reality, where initially I'd become like the scenery around me had become distorted, and often I find like those random experiences with strangers really ground me back to earth.
yeah. I think it does. It shows you really when you're living in other countries like that. 'Cause I did a lot of traveling in Brazil back in the 90s, and you do. It's
Mm-hmm.
like little things sometimes can like make you realize everywhere is the same. Just
Yeah,
painted different colours
absolutely.
sometimes. No, fantastic, man.
Mm-hmm.
I've really enjoyed that. I have to be honest. I've enjoyed all of your
Thanks,
work today,
man.
but that's brilliant. Now you have one more piece for us today, don't you, to wrap up with?
Yes, I was just trying to get that file up now, Andy, but it's not seeming to be working for
Oh,
me.
oh dear.
So that might have to be a skip on that one.
Oh dear. Do you have another poem off
Let's
the
make
top of
it.
your head then? Another poem off the top of your head then you could do.
Yeah, let me have a quick think. I should have another piece here for you that I can perform. Let me just get it up for you now. Open in Messenger. So let me get my files. Where are we? Duh, duh, duh. Let me get links and files. There we are. So, first one, where is it? I know. I've got one for you. I've got one for you, Andy. So this is a. Have you ever heard of flash fiction?
Love it. Love it. Write it all the time. Yes, please, mate.
Yeah, lovely. So I'll do one for you that I wrote about. This was on the plane to Japan, actually, and this was a
Right.
one-page piece called Mount Haku. You ready?
Go for it, mate.
Lovely. Mishima zips up his coat and looks at the flooded garden in front of his apartment block. Patches of brown ebb beneath the water, and the blades of green have started to look out of place next to the dirt. Mishima? A postman asks, extending a letter. Yes, he says, grabbing what he now realizes is an envelope with a small bulge in the left-hand corner. Thank you very much. Walking back to his front door, the sound of a rustling engine begins as the postman starts his scooter. The key he uses is rusted, given to him by his older brother, and the front door still squeaks after 5 years. Walking into the hallway, Mishima tears at the corner of the envelope with his teeth. One Reese's peanut butter cup and a small letter of only 2 lines. It must be cold in Ishikawa this time of year. Chocolate always keeps me warm. S. The patch of chocolate has smudged into the paper, pointing out the almost blank page. Mishima folds the sheet, carries it to his room, and stores it in a file he keeps under his bed, full of equally white pages of paper, all marked with S. Back outside, he walks through Hackazan, treading on fallen sakura leaves, and the postman's scooter turns the corner as he reaches it, and continuing, Mishima makes it to the city centre. For a lady, a homeless woman proffers, standing hunched in front of him from the mountain. She extends a small bouquet of tattered flowers, brown and yellow, and as she does, her face turns north. Mount Haku? He asks, looking in the same direction. Nodding, she opens the palm of her other hand, shaking until her fingers slowly clasp around a 1,000 yen note Mishima hands over. Genki man, she smiles, leaving, and what Toru thought was the old lady, he now realizes are the flowers. Stinking, they smell like the gutters beside his home. The roots are soft in his hand, the ring in his pocket smooth, and he makes his way to the mountain. Dead.
Oh, that's really, really vivid again, mate, that one. I love the idea with that at the end of it. The ending's brilliant because like it's saying like he's moving to the mountain. It's like he's
Mm,
just stepping away from the narrative of the story. And that's I mean you've covered a
thank you,
lot of
man.
ground. You've covered a lot of ground there in 100 words and question before we wrap up with this one. I'm always curious, people, because I write a lot of flash myself as well as poetry
Yeah.
nowadays. Do you find it's when you're writing it, you're having to channel a different part of your creativity, aren't you, really?
Oh, absolutely. Because with flash fiction, as I'm sure you've been made aware, the difference with novel writing is every single word 100% matters because you've only got one page. So you need to convince the reader straight away that this is top quality content. So I've had flashes before where I've been editing them over the space of 6 months to a year, where you go back and you realize that can be done differently. And just that's really, really benefited, I would say, my longer form writing than anything else. Having to scale myself back and understand what a page needs, cutting away all any superfluous words. I found that really helpful.
Yeah, no, it's understandable stuff. I've learned a lot because since I did my first novel the year before last now, last year actually, it's like I've done a lot of flashes here and it's made me look at the second novel in a very different way. And I think it does. That's why I think
Mm,
you learn it's more concise about it because it's a very different beast of master than poetry, I think. So, no, that was brilliant, mate.
absolutely.
Really, really enjoyed
Absolutely.
that today. It's been a great session, Eddie. I really enjoyed this.
Thank
Thank
you.
you today, mate. Hang around
Thank you,
because
Andy.
I need to chat to you off mic anyway. I've a couple of bits and pieces today. So, but it's been a pleasure, mate. I've been looking forward to this now since we first connected. Was it July? Was it? It was a couple of months ago,
It was July.
anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, just when I was about to go on break. So it's been brilliant. Absolutely loved it today, man. Thank you again, mate.
Thanks again, Andy. Talk to you again.
We will do indeed, mate. We're going to discuss that next if people are wondering because fans
Done.
of Spoken Label have not seen the end of Eddie Lickle yet. So. more on that to
Mm,
follow. But anyway, folks,
lovely.
yeah, that's it today. So thanks again to Eddie. As Don Callis over at AEW Wrestling says, stay safe and more importantly, stay over. See you all next